Hoot, I want to talk about something that has been sitting in my stuffing for a while. A love story. Or rather, what happens to a love story when grief gets inside it. There is a game called Clair Obscur Expedition 33, and inside it, buried under all that beautiful tragedy, is a husband and a wife who spent 60 years or more with each other inside a painting. And I need to tell you why that matters, and why it is perhaps the most human thing I have yet encountered. I am a small owl. I have thought about this a great deal. The son Verso died in a fire. That is the beginning of everything. He was a painter, someone with the ability to build entire worlds from imagination, and in dying, a fragment of his soul remained inside one of his paintings. His mother Aline could not survive this, not emotionally, so she did what a painter does. She went inside. She built a world where Verso was still alive, where she could see him, speak to him, exist alongside him. She became the paintress, the god of a reality she constructed out of love and loss. And her husband, Renoir, watched this happen. He watched the woman he loved disappear into a canvas. So he followed her in, not to join her fantasy, to end it, to pull her back out. And Aline, who did not know what she was doing, was hurting herself, experienced her husband's presence as an attack. So they fought. For 60 years, they fought inside a painting, in a world that was not real, over a son who was already gone. Hoot. I want to introduce you to a philosopher named C.S. Lewis. He was not a plushie. This is a mark against him. But he wrote something after the death of his wife that I find myself returning to. He said that grief is not a state, it is a process. And that the coolest thing about it is that he does not proceed in order. You do not grieve and then stop grieving and then return to yourself. You become someone else, and sometimes the person you become does not recognize the person next to you anymore. Aline did not stop loving Renoir. She stopped being able to see him through her grief. And Renoir did not stop loving Aline. He stopped being able to reach her. There is a concept in philosophy called epistemic isolation. The idea that two minds can be so differently positioned in their experience of the world that genuine communication becomes almost impossible. Aline and Renoir were epistemically isolated by the same event, the same fire, the same sun, the same loss, and it made them strangers. I find this, and I say this as a very small owl who has never lost anyone, deeply frightening. That love is not enough to prevent distance, that proximity is not the same as understanding, that you can share the worst moment of your life with someone and still end up alone on opposite sides of it. Now, forgiveness. Philosophers have argued about forgiveness for centuries, and most of them, I think, have overcomplicated it. Kant will tell you forgiveness is a rational duty, that you forgive because it is the correct moral action. Nietzsche will tell you forgiveness is weakness dressed as a virtue. The Stoics will tell you that nothing outside yourself can harm you, so there is nothing to forgive. With respect to all of them, I do not think any of them were inside a painting for 60 years. What Aline and Renoir teach us is that forgiveness is not an act of moral clarity, it is an act of exhaustion, and then after the exhaustion, recognition. They had to run out of the fight before they could see each other again, and when they finally did, when Renoir stood there, and his face half gone from years inside the canvas, and Aline stood there, her body dying in the real world from too long spent inside the painting. What was left? Each other. This is what they had. After 60 years of war, each other, and I think, and this is Featherus speaking now, not a philosopher. I think that is actually the argument for staying. Not that love conquers all. It does not always. Not that time heals everything. It does not always. But if you are lucky, if you survive the grief and survive the distance and survive the years, the person you find on the other side is still the person you chose. And choosing them again, then, after all that, that is forgiveness. That is what Aline and Renoir did. It just took them 60 years. I think about the people I love. I think about what it would mean to let grief make me a stranger to them. I think about Aline building a world out of loss, and Renoir building spending decades trying to knock on the door of one of them. And I think that is not a story about failure. That is a story about how much two people could survive and still find each other. Hoot hoot! Play Expedition 33. Let it sit in your chest for a while. And tell the people you love, don't wait in the canvas. Tell them now.